What's up, guys?
We hope you enjoyed this little segment from our Late Night TCG Live podcast.
Yeah, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and follow us on our respective channels.
All information will be in the description box below.
Enjoy!
Like, I was kind of winging the deck at the last LCS. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew that every time I lost RPS, I was killing them. So I didn't really have to set up a board. I just lost RPS and killed them.
That's fair. Actually, speaking of Drytrons, let's talk about it, right?
Yeah, let's talk about Drytrons.
I want to talk about how to beat it, right? And it's not, and there's two variants of Drytrons going around.
Yeah.
The one being more popular, which is the Vanity's ruler build.
Yeah, yeah.
And the less popular, but I think you have more options with it, which is the Megalith build, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, the Bethor pop, even if that's all you end on, it's still pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Because if your opponent is setting 3 passing, you know, you can fool an end phase.
Yeah. No, you can't. Only during main phase.
Oh, during the main phase.
Yeah,
so before they leave main phase 2, yeah. But, I mean, there's one very clear out to Drytrons, which is Droll and Lockbird.
Yeah.
Granted, they don't have orange in the hand.
Yep.
But even if they go Droll and you orange and they pitch another fairy,
yeah.
if they even have it,
yep.
that's still 2 cards out of their hand.
Yeah, 2 cards out of their hand. I mean, like, to be fair, like, when I do, like, have the fair, like, I usually have enough to just win from there. Because they lost a card and I lost 2 cards, and technically I did, like, go -1 out of the whole interaction. As long as you're able to play and not get stopped, like, that -1 that you had initially from the Angel, it will easily become recurrable. Like, you'll go +10 when you loop Ben 10s like 5-6 times. You know what I'm saying? So, like, at the end of the day, it's like kind of fine. I mean, so going back to the topic of how, like, beat them and, like, the 2 variants that are very clearly out there. I think one is more like the floodgate and then 1 negate, 2 negate variant. Or technically, most of the time it's 2 negate, but
2 negates,
it's more important to note that they're monster negates. And it's monster and spell trap negate, but
if they go Mirage Light, yeah.
So let's talk about their end boards first, and then we can, like, talk about how, like, we can dissect how to, like, beat those decks, right? So the end board for the Vanity Ruler build is essentially you end on a Mirage of Herald Lights or Herald of Mirage Lights.
Yep.
The Vanity Ruler, Ava and Orange in your hand. That's typically the end board. So the theory is you have a Mirage Light which will stop an impermanence. It'll stop, like, Forbidden Chalice, like any sort of way to essentially, like, book a moon on the Vanity Ruler, like anything that would stop the ruler from applying its effect to stop you from special summon.
Correct.
So that's one again. Usually you pitch the Ava, and then the Ava will search you another orange, etc., or purple. So here's some of the fundamental flaws with that, like, end board, and some ways you can crack it, right? So if you were to hypothetically have any monster over 600 or 700 attack, you can normal summon it, right? Attack over the Mirage Lights.
Yep.
They get to add back a Ben 10, whatever. That's fine.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
In main phase 2, you can activate cards like Creature Swap, cards like, Crackdown, right? And then they legitimately auto-lose because they have no outs. And most people don't search a purple light in, like, at least game 1 for sure. Because the more relevant thing is to search an orange light.
Orange light, correct.
And so in that instance, once you attack pass, you just crack down their Vanity Ruler. You, like I said, you Creature Swap, like, any form of way where you take control of that monster, like cards like Crackdown, for example, right, where it takes a card but it doesn't stop the continuous effect. It only stops activated effect, which means your opponent is locked out from special summoning and they have no out.
Yeah, they have no out because every card other than the Manju needs to be special summoned.
Yeah.
And they usually only play, the Vanity's build only plays 1 Manju.
Yeah,
I believe, because
they only play 1. Yeah.
Well, they only play 1.
Because you only that's
a worst case scenario too.
So the thing is, there's some hands that actually don't even end on the ruler, and so you would actually have to normal summon the Manju to, like, have some sort of semblance to play.
Yeah.
And then your game plan there is then to basically just make Mirage Lights and have, like, negates in the forms of orange in your hand, which is, like, probably the worst. But at least I know.
That's bad though.
Yeah, and that's, like, bad. But that, I mean, Asala and I played at the giant card, and, like, he passed on that. Like, he passed on the Mirage Lights and, like, oranges in hand. I actually, funny enough, couldn't actually play through it.
Really?
Yeah, just because, like, the 2 monster negates, and he has an understanding of, like, how to, like, beat the deck. He knew where to hand trap. It was actually very hard to play because I didn't draw, like, amazing.
I see.
So like, 2 monster negate. Like, he even said himself, like, most decks can't play through 2 monster negates. Like, if you, think about it. If you basically have 2 gammas for a virtual deck, it's very hard for them to play through that. Like, it's very hard. Like, you gamma the Lulu and gamma whatever the follow-up is, it's game over.
True.
And it's just very similar in terms of, like, at least for the Drytron deck. So unless you open up, like, Crackhead, unless you open up, like, Ben 10 and a Drytron name. So now we talked about that variant, right? We understood the end board there. we can talk about the Megalith version, which is like the version I've been playing, and that version is more. You put up more negates, like more Omni negates, right? So my end board or my goal is to put up either an Appaloosa or an IP.
Right.
So that's like the two things you choose, but that IP can convert to an Appaloosa for three, a unicorn, and it's very versatile.
Yep.
Or you end on the Appaloosa for 4.
Correct.
And you have the Appaloosa for 4. You have the Ultimateness with 4 fairies.
And a full.
One hand, if it's decent enough, you end on 5 fairies, and then you end on full.
Correct.
Which is essentially like you have around like non-ironically like 8 negates plus like a pop 4.
Exactly.
Like
which is nuts.
It sounds absurd, and it's really hard to crack. But of course, like both of these decks have weaknesses that the other ones don't. For example, I lose to like Spear Mode,
Hell yeah,
Lava
baby.
Golem, Kaijus, all that good stuff, right? And then my counterpart, which is like the ruler bit, doesn't lose to that. It doesn't lose to Lava Golem. It doesn't lose to Kaijus, right? Because you can't special.
Yeah, because you can't special them.
Yeah,
right,
I mean you can get Spear Mode, but they never summon 3 monsters.
Ever.
And so like, but then of course like both variant loses to droplets in some form, but they only need to droplet 1 card in like the Vanity ruler variant, but they need to droplet 3 cards to out like that entire board, which means they have 2 cards to play with.
Right. But if it's a Drytron and a Ben 10,
yeah,
you lose.
Yeah, you lose anyways because you can't kill them, right?
Yeah.
So those are obviously some of like the fundamental like weaknesses and strength of like both sides. So I go with the Megalith version because of its ability to
have more lines
to
of play.
grind and lines of play. So some non-obvious things about the Drytron deck is, for example, like when you activate the ritual spell to come back to your hand, your monster goes to 1,000.
Correct.
So some of the few ritual monsters that are 1,000 that you can bring back is full.
Yeah.
Like you can't bring back Ben 10 in those situations, right?
Or
and
something,
so bring back full is always a +1 because full always adds a Ben 10 from the grave.
Correct.
It can add a Bethor, it can add ultimateness or whatever you want. So it's like really, really good recursion. And being able to you actually get to pop every single turn with that. Which is kind of insane.
And especially if you're like playing up against the grind game with like a Zoo Eldlik,
right?
Like that small interaction of Meteonis, target a Drytron, get fullback.
Yeah,
it's like it's actually so game breaking because you have to realize ritual cards are old, man.
Yeah,
like if you look at preparation of rites,
it's
not once per turn, and it's broken. Like it'll literally add to the ritual monster, and like if you're recycling Meteonis and you can't get it back, you can like add it back, and it's actually that interaction is so broken.
Yeah,
and like Ben 10 will either get limited to 1 or just straight up ban.
Yeah,
but then like after that, like what is a good option to Ben 10 once Ben 10 gets limited or banned?
I think if it's limited, you have to play the Megalith version because it's the only way you can like loop it multiple times.
Correct.
Because you can add back from the graveyard. I mean, theoretically, one of the other lines of play is to actually summon back Ben 10 with the ritual spell multiple times.
Yeah.
And then loop it that way. But yeah, it's gonna be very different. People are gonna innovate, but I think if you limit it, it doesn't solve the issue. I think it'll still be broken.
Yeah, people will just find ways to do it.
Yeah, but I think if you ban it, it'll definitely hurt it a little bit more, and you have to get a little bit more creative. But I think the cool thing about the Drytron deck that no other deck has is its limitless potential in the deck building component, right?
Correct.
And it has a lot of avenues to take in so many different ways, right? And that's what you kind of see with this deck that you don't really see in other decks. Like Virtual is pretty cookie cutter. Like,
yeah,
it's like not like, I mean, I think the deck is solved. Like, I don't think there's anything else you need to do. I don't think there's anything else you need to figure out. Like, it's solved. Like, but the Drytron deck I think is still yet to be solved, and it's still already very crazy.
Yeah, I mean, because like
that's scary.
Because like the base of the deck is insane, right? Like all your Drytron monsters activate hand, field, or graveyard.
Yeah,
like that is huge. Like you're essentially saying like the moment it's out of the deck, like you have the chance to infinite plus, right? Like
the Orcus cards, like that's why Orcus was so broken back in the day, because it was like, yo, Harp summon Nightmare dump like Wand bring back Nightmare, like, or bring back Harp. Like it was just a ridiculous cycle, right? And all the good Orcus players would have all their engine or their resources in constant loop.
Exactly.
And it was like every time you didn't kill them, they come back next turn stronger, and they kept pushing through your board.
Yeah.
And it was weirdly enough, like, it wasn't even a combo deck. It was like one of like the weird semblance or the mix between the two, kind of like how Virtual World is, like mix between the combo control. Like they just managed their resources really well, and every single turn they came back like hitting a lot harder than normal because you're at a lot less in resources. So every time they kept pushing back against you, you like dwindle down your resources a lot faster than they do.
Exactly, yeah, because like essentially, so like when Pack is saying they come back stronger, they actually like just put up the same board over and over again, which essentially like if you're allowing them to do that, and if you're allowing them to do that, you're not using resources. If you're trying to stop them, you're using resources. But like Babel is just a hell of a card.
It's a hell of a card,
and it didn't matter what you did. You know what I'm saying? Like it didn't matter Jon Snow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I think it's just the ability that cards that let you play on your opponent's turn, right? And so right, like that's why Megalith Fool I think is so good, because it's a quick effect that lets you play on your opponent's turn, and there's a lot of cool things you can do. But I mean, I think we pretty much can agree that like Drytron is going to be like one of the best decks for the upcoming meta, and it's a deck that you have to be prepared for, right? And so but it's one of the most unintuitive decks to play.
Correct.
Like it's not one of those decks you can just pick up and learn. Like I remember playing in the locals the other night, and some guy passed ruler on me, but I still won with Shadalls. Like just because like he wasn't as familiar with the deck. Like he screwed up like one interaction where like could have searched him an extra fairy, could have had one extra negate, all this stuff. Like there's a lot of very unique interactions that you need to understand when playing the deck that really it punishes you a lot harder than other decks that I've seen. And that even Jesse himself, right, like a really well-known player, he even said to me like, yo, this deck is not easy to pilot. Like and coming from someone like Jesse, right, that like definitely like made sense. Like I think we both came to that same consensus.
Well, I mean, when it comes to that, right, I feel like it depends on your playstyle really, because like for like me, when I picked up the Drytron deck, I read through the cards once, and like I was able to play. Yeah. Like, because generally like there are some lines of play that you do need to do, but it just depends like on where and how you want to get there. Yeah. Because like especially if you open like Thubin and Ben 10, like you grab the ritual monster, pitch, and then just keep looping the Ben 10, and then add the ultimate disc, use Zeta to get the ritual, put up Herald and stuff like that. But like in terms of like, I think what the people really want to know is like what would the side deck look like if you were prepping, let's say just for Drytrons, and let's say you had 6 flex spots in your side deck, and you had two playsets of cards, or just 6 cards that you can use for Drytrons. What would you pick?
All right, guys. I hope. Bro, shut the fuck up, bro.
Shut up, bro.
Get out of my video, bro.
No, bro.
My fans will slap your fans.
Bro, my fans will beat up your fans and you.